wah, wiki wah, wiki wah, wiki wiki wah wah West, Jim West, Desperado, someone. Now you don't want.
Hello, I'm Chris.
And I'm Tom.
You're watching That Review Show. Tom, what are we talking about today?
Wild Wild West.
Not getting enough lift. We need more speed. Gordy, that's a cliff. Yes, I know. That means the ground is going to end. Yes, I know. Gordon.
Before there was a Secret Service, there was
West. Jim West.
So Tom, in what genre would you put Wild Wild West?
I would say it's a Western steampunk action comedy costume romp.
Okay.
Yeah. Unusually though, unlike most of the films we seem to be watching at the moment, the complexity of the genre isn't a problem for the tone. The tone of this film was clear all the way through. It made sense. It was going for comedy, and it was actiony.
Yeah. It wasn't jarring at all. It was just terrible.
So, what's the plot?
So the plot is that Jim West, a US soldier, and Gordon Armistice have to team up under orders of the president in order to stop General Lovelace from overthrowing the United States and creating a divided states, which he intends to split up and give back to the people that the Americans stole it from?
Yes.
Great Britain gets back 13 original colonies minus Manhattan. Florida and the Fountain of Youth go back to Spain. Texas, New Mexico, California, Arizona revolve on Mexico. And a little piece for me to retire on.
Yeah, in fact, to go more deeply into the plot, you've mentioned exposition, Captain Exposition Kevin Kline in this film. It does seem to, several times, just for the audience go, here's what the plot's about. 3 times, in fact.
Which films will do. It's important that you know what's happening, but he literally will stop Will Smith at 3 separate points in the film and say,
"Now listen, the art of disguise is what we need to get into the party in order to find the kidnapped scientists before they're forced to create something that will destroy the United States. You and I have been handpicked by the president himself."
Of course, Will Smith knows exactly what they have to.
He could have said, look, you know what the stakes are. And Will Smith's character would have said, okay, let's do this. But because we as an audience are stupid, he has to...
Did you just bar?
He has to stop and say, okay, guys, here's what's happening now. We've only explained it 10 minutes ago, but just in case you've forgotten...
Let's tell you again.
Yeah.
And then near the very end of the film, well, not near the very end, at the sort of crisis of the film, he goes, this is the crisis section. Here's what the stakes are and what we're here to achieve, like we told you twice already.
And here we stand, while that demented maniac is hurtling towards our president on our one and only mode of transportation, with Rita as his prisoner, armed with God knows what machinery of mass destruction, with the simple intention of overturning our government and taking over the country.
Look, Gordon, I think you need to calm down.
It's kind of your typical buddy cop film, basically, or a buddy movie at least. They've got Kevin Kline is into science and logic and talking or thinking his way out of situations.
Yeah.
Which we never actually see.
No, we never see him do that.
Well, no, actually we do once with the elastic rope that they used to escape from the lynching.
He does do the Batman thing of like planning things for months in advance, like the flaming bat sign on the bridge. It's just like that, you know, I changed the rope for an elastic one. Yeah.
But then Will Smith is the punchy, shooty, shoot first, ask questions later.
Who are you?
Methods clash.
Yes.
But they obviously learn to work together and blah 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 and and
Can you stop making farmyard noises?
sorry. And then Salma Hayek comes in to provide some cleavage relief.
Yeah, in fact, to talk about the male gaze in this film, it's shocking. I mean, most of the point of Salma Hayek's character is that she is a woman who is attractive. She provides one piece of plot information which is useful to them.
2.
Yeah, and it provides some of the stakes. There's a whole scene where it's just about how attractive her body is, and the characters are, of course, fighting over her, psychological warfare because she's the attractive girl who suddenly turned up. They're both pretty pathetic about it, quite frankly. Will Smith provides her with some clothes to wear, and it's one of those, like, like long johns or whatever it is, a onesie with the open back flap like they used to have so you can go to the toilet. And we see as she turns around that she's got that, and it's like, oh, I see, okay, right, okay.
Haha, we can see the top of her bum.
Yes, and the characters are both like, whoa, whoa, about it. But we, the audience, then see what they see and see again, and it's like, oh, come on, like, yeah, I understand the characters are being pathetic, don't make me pathetic too.
Yeah, the first time it's a visual gag, the second time it's just you don't
voyeurism.
need it. Yeah, exactly. After you've done the gag initially, the only reason to have that shot is like, hey guys, check out Salma Hayek's ass.
This is just like Bob Hoskins in Death to Smoochie.
Yeah. Who? So there are several problems with the plot, one being that it's all told to you by the same character time and time again.
But yeah, I mean, that's exposition, and there is a moment at the very beginning of the film where we first meet Kevin Kline's character, and we're supposed to be laughing at the japes and difficulties he's finding about being dressed up as a woman, but we haven't been introduced to him yet, so we don't even know who he is. It's like, well, how are we supposed to care? Please expose something through showing us, or at least give us a reason to care.
Well, we then learn that he's fairly obviously a man, but we then learn that he's a man because he turns around and says to someone, you know, get the hell away from me.
Yeah.
But again, like you said, we don't know who he is.
Yeah, who is this guy? Like, all right.
So then you're just going, oh, it's a man.
You can't laugh unless you understand who the character is, what situation they are, and the dramatic irony is shared by you. You can't share the dramatic irony if you're not on the side of the character.
Yeah.
It's bad.
But he has one wonderful superpower in this film.
Oh God, yes. His superpower is to create plot devices that are always conveniently in exactly the right place.
Yeah. There are a couple, to be fair. There are, I think, two that are set up earlier on in the film, and then you get the payoff later.
Yeah, particularly Will Smith at one point goes, "Hey, do you remember that trapdoor thing? We need to use that now."
Yeah.
And you say, "Okay, fine. Okay, right. More of that, please."
And he mentions a bulletproof vest. And then much later in the film, Will Smith wears it to get out of a tricky situation.
Right, but there's moments like, for instance, when Will Smith first tries to sneak onto his train, where he presses some buttons, and Will Smith very conveniently is in all the right places. Oh, come on! It's. I know this film's wacky. It's meant to be silly, but it's so stupid. It's immersion breaking.
However, a lot of the time they don't need any of those wonderful inventions because they have the best superpower of all, which is that they can completely resolve situations through either luck or just by the editor cutting to another scene conveniently.
Now what?
I mean, they're set up to be, like, great at what they do. You've got Kevin Kline, who's the genius, inventor, stuff. Will Smith, who's really good at shooting people. At any point in the film, does Will Smith shoot someone?
Well, in this one scene, you see him fire his gun, and then you see dead bodies on the floor, which were presumably not there when he walked into the room. But yeah, he never really uses his gunslinger skills at all. It's kind of like if in a film you set a character up to have like superhuman powers and immortality, and then had him pointlessly engaging in fistfights for the second and third films in the trilogy. It's false advertising. You're not getting what you expect from the character.
Kevin Kline does his invention probably once or twice, gets them out of the trouble, as you said, set up payoff. The rest of the time, accidents happen and they win.
Yeah. So a few examples of this would be the cart of nitroglycerin tumbling into the hotel.
Yep.
The fight on the giant spider, which I can't wait to talk about, with the big indestructible man who just suddenly malfunctions and dies. The fact that magnets explode.
The fact that magnets explode is good, because if they just hit each other and shattered, then shards of magnet would have been flying at them, which would have been a lot worse than one big magnet.
Yeah, so luckily the discs of metal explode when they hit each other.
Great!
And finally, the scene where Will Smith dances his way into Loveless's party, and they get discovered, all the soldiers shoot at them in about 5 seconds, and then Loveless runs away and all the soldiers just sort of wander off. They literally just, Will Smith and Kevin Kline are talking to each other about how they need to invent a flying machine to take down the spider, and all the soldiers in the background are just wandering off.
Yeah, in fact, it's so profound how much they just give up that Salma Hayek, even just when she's surrounded by an army, goes,
Save the president, we'll be fine.
"What, are you kidding, Salma? Like, you could get shot very easily." Yeah.
Now, I don't know about you, but when I watch a film, you kind of know that the good guys are going to prevail.
Yeah.
But it's fun to see them working their way out of a situation, whether it's through awesome gunplay or a very clever trick that they play on the bad guy. However, when a film...
Winning through skill.
Yeah, exactly, winning through skill, rather than just the bad guys give up, or it just...
The bad guy just dies suddenly at the end of the fight. I mean, literally, Metal Man, halfway through fighting, "Oh, I've just had a heart attack."
Yeah.
That's a Monty Python joke.
I think I'm about to have a cardiac arrest.
Also, they have another superpower, which is that they can undo continuity to their advantage.
Well, and, I mean, this is the thing that I actually enjoyed the most about watching this film, like, noticing the complete disregard for continuity.
Yeah.
You know, the total discontinuity of lots of it. One really good example of poor continuity is that Kevin Kline at the beginning of the film says...
So uncivilized.
Oh, sorry, I mean, he says...
Guns. I find them so primitive.
And then later on in the film, we see that in his train, he has a massive stock of firearms. It's complete character discontinuity. Hilarious and lazy.
Yeah.
Of course, another continuity problem is that Kevin Kline is meant to be a scientific genius, pre-plan everything, understand everything, and he gets to the point where he's doing the shining the light through the eyes of the guy to get the image off the back of his eyelids.
Which he should have done days before.
Yes.
Because that was their one piece of evidence that they might be able to find Loveless with.
And he, despite the fact he's probably used lenses before, completely forgets that light refracts upside down until that moment, so that we, the audience, can go, "Oh, well done, film, you're very clever for understanding the science of the eye," to show us all, "Oh, look, he turns it the other way up because that's how eyes work." It's like the film showing off that it knows about science.
No, it's...
For the sake of the character's knowledge about science.
What the film is trying to do is establish that he knows about science, but by having him forget something really fundamental and then go, "Oh, of course, it's because light refracted through the lens of the eye."
Yeah, it's like, establish character. Let's tell the audience he's great at science, and then show him completely bumble at it to show how great he is about science.
Why not have the head upside down, and rather than have Will Smith, who is like a killer in the army, fixate on the fact that it's a man's head, why not say his head's upside down and keep saying his head's upside down, his head's upside down, and then when Kevin Kline turns the light on and the picture's the right way up, Kevin Kline can say, "Because as you know, refraction through the lens of the eye..."
And that would have worked better for their characters, wouldn't it? Because, I mean, like, their whole relationship at that point is about one-upmanship and being smarter or better than the other. That would have been so much better, rather than him going, "Oh, oh yes, it's the other way up."
Yeah.
It's stupid.
But that does give us the great comedy moment of Will Smith saying, "That's a man's head."
No, he goes like this. He goes, "That's a man's head."
That's like the third time he says it though. And then the fifth time he says it, he says,
That is a man's.
I've not got my watch on. Do you need to top up?
No, I'm alright.
Yeah? Okay.
He's,
Have we got the punchline yet?
No, he's doing a line. He's still doing the line. Magnets!
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 Magnets.
Magnets!
Yeah, bitch! Magnets! Oh!
What's wrong with the magnets?
I don't know, what's wrong with the magnets?
Yeah, and then there's the scene where they've got the magnet things on their neck, but they've escaped the discs because they've exploded, and they're trying to figure out how to get them off, and Kevin Kline's annoyed with Will Smith because he's the one who set off the trap and and Kevin Kline picks up a rock and he's like, why don't we just try hitting it with a rock? And Will Smith says, you don't want to do that.
As if he understands kind of what they do.
Yeah, so Kevin Kline hits Will Smith's magnet, it makes a magnet noise, and then they suddenly stick to each other.
Yes.
And Kevin Kline says, we must have reversed the polarity of the magnets.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, first off, maybe if you smack a magnet hard enough, you can reverse the polarity.
I have no idea.
I'll jump on board with that one.
The magnets, how did they work?
Fucking magnets, how do they work?
Why does Will Smith say, you don't want to do that? Because I was expecting him to do a little moment, like at the end of Rush Hour where Chris Tucker suddenly speaks Chinese.
Right, yeah.
And he's like, I never said I didn't, you assumed I didn't.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I thought Will Smith was going to say, if you hit a magnet hard enough, it will reverse the polarity. And Kevin Kline was going to go, I should have thought of that. But instead, Will Smith says you don't want to do that. Kevin Kline smacks it, and it goes horribly wrong. And then Kevin Kline says, we've reversed the polarity of the magnets. And I'm like, why was he saying you don't want to do that?
Yeah, as if Will Smith sort of knew that there would be a problem with this.
Yeah.
That's unintuitive.
Beyond just bang, ow.
And easy way to solve the problem, hit the other one.
Or hit Will Smith again.
Still, it made for a good scene. Actually, it was not a bad scene with them all being stuck together.
That was probably the best comedy scene in the film, and I didn't laugh at it. But
no,
I also
it's not great.
I didn't want to scratch my eyes out or bleach my eyes. And one final little bit of really irritating continuity. When Will Smith's fighting the weird robot men, he puts the chain around one guy's neck, throws him out of the giant robotic spider, and I was hoping that the guy would just hang.
Yeah, be hanged on the end of at the front of the spider. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. But instead, he just falls out the window, and the chain.
Wait! Here it is.
And then, at the end of the film, when Will Smith falls out of the giant spider, he grabs onto the guy that's hanging from the chain.
Oh. Well, they went out of their way to show us him falling off, and then it's the thing that rescues Will Smith.
Yeah, see, now, it annoys me in a film when the bad guy drops a gun, and you get a shot of the gun hitting the floor, and you're like, oh, okay, the good
gun's
guy's
there for someone to get. Yes, yeah.
So, that irritates me, but at the same time, it irritates me more when the guy flies out the window and the chain doesn't stop him, and then when it's convenient for the film, suddenly he's hanging from the chain outside.
They actually reversed gravity and reality. They retconned what they'd showed you already.
And you could say maybe the chain caught on something as the guy was falling, but at the same time, that's the situation where I want to see that happen, perhaps. Because then you're just like, well, that didn't happen, so you've just made that up because you can't figure out how to get people out of tense situations.
So really, the writing in this film is like things happen by accident, and discontinuity is part of daily life. Still, on a technical level, this film did have a lot of good stuff going.
Yes.
I think some of the sets were great, particularly Loveless's sex dungeon, where we first just find Salma Hayek in a cage. If we just look at a bit of it, there's a little cutout in the bed there. It was very interesting. They must have had to customly design all of this. What is all that? So yeah, very interesting.
Question.
Yes.
Just on a side note, does this film pass the Bechdel test?
Oh no.
Okay.
There's only one woman in it. Oh no, well actually, Loveless's ladies, his SS unit.
Now let me ask you a question.
Are women, but they don't talk to each other, they don't really have names.
The Bechdel test. If two women were named, and in a scene where they were talking to each other not about a man, but their tits were hanging out.
No, it still fails. Yeah, yeah, that's definitely still fails. Because I mean, you have to at least have the scene acceptably be
non-sexual,
at least aligned with egalitarian ideals. Sorry. So, yeah, great sets in some places. You had some, particularly I'm thinking as well of a good camera rig shot. I wasn't quite sure how they must have done it without it shaking too much. When we see the front of the train, like that, I was like, oh, how'd they do that? That's nice. Actually, the CGI and visual effects for its age weren't horrible. They were pretty good, right?
Yeah, do you know what? I'm not a big fan of CGI. I don't mind it being used, sort of when it's necessary. But the CGI in this film was pretty good. Unfortunately, all the blue screen is terrible.
I found a lot of the sound editing very weird, particularly background sound effects that occur. One example is when the general wants to make a speech to his men, he actually does what people do at a wedding, which is the sound of a wine glass, ting, 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 like that, as if everyone's going to go, oh, yes, we've got to listen to the father of the bride here.
But the thing is, they're all sat on rows,
waiting for him to speak anyway.
Yeah.
Another is the abundance of sheep in the background. There's a bit in the brothel, they fly through a wall, and there's a sheep sound, but there's no sheep in the room.
When they opened the door as well, when they're looking for a room to have sex in, Kevin Kline and the general that he's seducing, there's a sheep sound. And then
with the door?
Yeah.
Were they trying to sneak them in at moments where they thought the audience wouldn't notice? I don't know.
Well, what's really weird about that, though, it's not just the sound, because then when Will Smith arrives at the White House, the lawn is covered in sheep, and then when he's in the White House, the murals on the wall is loads of sheep. Now, maybe that's what is in the White House, but it's just lots of odd sheep symbolism.
Well, and spider, of course. This is a film produced by a spider lord who just wanted the spider cult to spread across America. Like, there's so much spider iconography on costumes, on all the stuff, because it's the general's emblem. But it's ridiculous.
So for those of you who don't know this intriguing bit of backstory, Kevin Smith, who directed Clerks and Jay and Silent Bob, Mallrats, Chasing
Kevin
Amy.
Smith of comic books.
Yes.
Love and film direction fame.
He was asked to write a script for Superman back in the 90s when they were originally looking to reboot it. And the producer that was in charge of this little project kept asking him to put a giant robot spider into the Superman film. Eventually, Kevin Smith's film didn't get made, his Superman, and then a couple of years later, he was invited to a premiere of Wild Wild West, being a popular director, and lo and behold, the giant robotic spider appeared on the screen, and obviously this film was produced by the guy who was going to produce the Superman film. But this film really just feels like a vehicle for the robotic spider. In fact, the robotic spider is on the front cover in the background there, and even the blurb on the back ends with, "From belt-buckle derringers to surprise-packed billiard balls to a walking 8-story steam and steel tarantula." But to be fair, that steam and steel tarantula does help make Wild Wild West a wow wow west.
Oh, does it say that? Oh.
For the first 20-25 minutes of this film, Will Smith seemed to either be asleep or just not at all interested.
His delivery of the humorous moments was poor.
Yes.
Yeah.
You had the kiss moment that was sort of, the idea was funny, but then it went on, kind of like That's a Man's Head, it just went on for too long.
Well, I mean, here it is. I mean, look, pretty funny.
Back it up good, Virgil. Next stop, New Orleans.
That's too long now.
Yeah.
I'm not working.
So, yeah. Well, I mean, Will Smith was phoning it in for the first half of the film. Though when the action scenes heat up, he kind of starts to get into it.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Once the film got going, yeah, it seemed like he picked up steampunk.
Punk! You said punk. Which made that a joke.
I thought that was quite a good punk.
Oh, no, alright, just keep your point going, yeah?
But yeah, how did you feel the comedy was in the film? Seeing as this is a Will Smith buddy comedy, costume action, western, steampunk romp?
Well, I mean, it's quite dialogue-driven, and probably because it's riding off the back of Will Smith's success in Men in Black, where he says funny things.
Same director as Men in Black, this film.
Is it now? Okay, fine, right. He's got sort of like Arnie one-liners, which aren't very, very well delivered or very funny. They're not as... The dialogue writing is poor.
Yes.
I'm thinking particularly of some, like, flat moments. Some real, like, fall flat bum moments we've talked about already, and also some pretty off-key humour. I presume it's an attempt at humour. There is an insult fight between him and General Lovelace. General Lovelace is, he has no legs, and Will Smith is, of course, black at the time post-slavery. They trade blows of a very off-key nature, and I think it's meant to be kind of funny, the way that they're punning at each other.
Yeah.
Nice of you to join us tonight and add color to these monochromatic proceedings.
And when someone comes back from the dead, I find that an occasion to stand up, be counted.
Miss East informs me that you were expecting to see General McGrath here. Well, I knew him years ago, but I haven't seen him in a coon's age.
Well, I can see where it'd be difficult for a man of your stature to keep in touch with even half the people you know.
Perhaps the lovely Miss East will keep you from being a slave to your disappointment.
You know, Lovelace, I guess when it comes right down to it, you just can't beat a good old-fashioned pair of legs.
Oh, I mean, honestly, Will, no, you can't say that.
No.
Oh,
No.
yeah, like, he was actually like, oh, that's distasteful.
Yeah, General Lovelace got punked.
Yeah. I mean, those are the only times when the tone kind of broke down for me of the film, but it wasn't to do with the genre, it was to do with just really off-key humour.
I don't know, I felt like it sort of fit with the tone of his character.
Because, now his character's a bit inconsistent, because he starts off all badass and gritty, and he's willing to like fire a gun in the White House and like aim guns at some poor guy in the White House for no reason.
Oh yeah.
So he takes risks and he just says nasty things and does nasty things. But then for most of the film, he's just kind of like quite nice. And then he just gets nasty again, and of course, Lovelace is using psychological torment against him, but he's doing it back just as badly, and it doesn't suit a good guy.
No, well, it's one of those things, isn't it? You think when he's doing it to innocent people, you think it's a bit rough, and then you think when he's doing it to the bad guy, I think generally you're sort of like, well, that's okay because it's a bad guy.
That's okay because he deserves it. Yeah.
But if you imagine if the bad guy was gay or Asian or anything else, and if he was calling him like a faggot or
or whatever,
yeah, exactly, you'd be like, oh, that's a bit much, isn't it? So the fact that he's making fun of him for having no legs.
Well, to be honest, that's just not acceptable anyway. Like, you know.
So I guess there's two questions that I need to ask you to sum up. Firstly, what's your score? And secondly, did Will Smith make the right decision when he turned down the role of Neo to be in Wild Wild West?
Can I answer the second one first?
Yes.
I think he did. Because then we got Keanu Reeves. Neo was quite flat and not too, vivid. And if he had been, that might have ruined The Matrix. He had to be an everyman that we can all just project ourselves onto. If it's Will Smith, you can't project yourself onto him. You just love him. So, no, I'm pleased that The Matrix is the way it is. Yeah, in Independence Day, he's brilliant. In Men in Black, he's absolutely excellent and perfect for the role. My score? About 4 out of 10. I did derive entertainment from this. I did. But mostly in sort of the fact that it wasn't totally awful, but also in just spotting the weird things that were going on in it. The sheep, man, what the hell? And yeah, it was engaging, but not really at all good. And an annoying vehicle for a crap giant spider. And your score, sir?
Do you know what? I was surprised by how much I didn't hate this film. It wasn't miserable like Death to Smoochie. It wasn't
a total mess like Monkey Bone.
Yeah. And I don't know. In a way, I kind of feel that's worse. Like if you're looking at it from an autopsy perspective, and you're picking apart the pieces, yes, it's fascinating.
Dr. T and the Women was fascinating. That was a 3 out of 10.
5 out of 10.
Whoa!
Smack bang in the middle.
So this is pretty average for Hollywood.
Complete indifference. Like some bits which I really didn't like, but they were not outweighed, but balanced out by a few bits that I actually thought were done quite well. But generally, though, it just isn't funny. The action is all right, but always ends in a really unsatisfying way because it cuts away or someone just randomly dies or whatever.
Will Smith shoots nobody. He's meant to be a gunslinger, for God's sake. I mean, you compare him just going, pointing a lot to Django, like pulling guns out and diving backwards through doors. Please, action!
I was really gutted when you said we had to watch this, and now that we've watched it, I don't care.
Okay. Well, Chris, what's the next film we review?
Ooh, what the f*** was that?
I don't know. What is the next film we will review?
I thought we should go to the cinema.
No, like a good one.
Oh.
But one worth watching rather than the cinema.
Well, you've just bought a whole ton of shit, haven't you?
What do you mean?
Made in Manhattan, you've got Mail, Ninja Terminator.
Ninja Terminator would be quite good.
I think we should do Ninja Terminator.
Fine.
Let's do one that's just absolute shit.